I think that, of course, academics are important, but I think that creating a story is very important. And so my girls will talk about their stories and how they created those.
And we're excited tonight about the conversation that we will have with Dr. Keisha Martin and her children who have successfully matriculated into Ivy League institutions. I think all of us here have gathered because we want to know, Dr. Martin, what you were able to do and how you were able to support and encourage your children to reach likely what they decided was their goal schools. So without further ado, I will turn everything over to Dr. Keisha Martin, who will introduce us to her lovely daughters who are here as well.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good evening. I'm really excited to be here, and so are my daughters. And so maybe they want to say hi, but Morgan is a junior at Stanford, and Madison is a sophomore at Princeton. So I just want to talk about our journey. I think it's important, one of the things that you said, Dr. Bonnie, was how did they get to their goal school? So, it's not just about going to an Ivy League. It's whatever your goal is. And so I often say that my girls did all the work, but I am also reminded that there are some things that I did in the past along the way that helped them get to the point where they could do this. So with that said, I think that, of course, academics are important, but I think that creating a story is very important. And so my girls will talk about their stories and how they created those, which is really the foundation is in pursuing passions. And so I taught them very young that you need to find out what makes you happy, what you're interested in, and pursue that passion, because no matter what it is, if you can do the thing you love in life, you will be successful and you will be happy. So I don't know who wants to talk first. Maybe we'll go by birth order. We'll start with Morgan.
I can go first. So I am now at Stanford University in California, and I am a junior there, majoring in biology with a concentration in biochemistry, and I am minoring in Spanish. So I would say in high school, I think I was definitely very focused on my grades, but throughout my sort of high school experience, I really made a point just to do the things that I enjoyed and that made me happy. So in ninth grade, I was part of an exchange program to Mexico where I lived with a host family. And then junior year, my school had this program where we individually came up with projects as juniors, and I really wanted to do something with Spanish. So I waited until the summer and I went to Guatemala and I volunteered there for 3 weeks. I went alone and I was 17. Obviously that was a little bit hard on my mom, but I think that things like that, like going above and beyond to explore passions, definitely made me sit out as a candidate. So I think that was one way in which I tried to go above and beyond, not for my college applications, but because it was something that was important to me. And I think that's also what made the things I explored sustainable. I wasn't like forcing myself to do things to like that looked good on paper. Like this is what I wanted to do and what made me happy. I also knew I was very passionate about sustainable agriculture. In 7th grade, I took an environmental science class for the first time, and I read this book called The Omnivore's Dilemma, which was basically about corn and the impact it has on the environmental industry. And I cut out red meat after that. Junior year, I became pescatarian, and that was sort of like what introduced me to environmental science. We also had a final project, and I made this guide of plant-based alternatives for protein, and that project got like this minor award, which is a global citation award. But I also put like a lot of effort into that, and finding ways to explore and learn about the things that I was interested in outside of what was directly accessible to me is what I'll say for now.
Yes. Okay, well, let's move to Madison. Thank you so much, Morgan, for sharing. And parents, I hope you're taking notes. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat. We want this to be like a fully conversational Q&A after Madison gives us her introduction. So Madison, welcome, and we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, I'm Madison. I'm a sophomore at Princeton, and I'm majoring in mechanical and aerospace engineering, and I'm getting minors in robotics and computer science. I also, like Morgan, really was able to find my passion, and I think that is what really helped me get into college and really make my story. But I, unlike her, did not know from a super young age. I think up until maybe 9th or 10th grade, I was almost convinced I was gonna be a doctor. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. Even when I was looking at my colleges, I really considered schools that had good pre-med programs as well as engineering, because in the back of my mind I was kind of wait, maybe I'm interested in engineering. But I was pretty set on medicine for a very long time. And then I think in 10th grade, I took like an anatomy class and I was like, man, that's kind of boring. I don't really want to do anatomy. I don't think this is something I want to do. So I'd always been really good at math and science. And I was like, okay, let me kind of see what engineering's like. I'd always loved planes. Whenever I go on a plane ride, I get like super excited. So I also did like a junior project like Morgan did. And with that, I reached out to family, friends, and just like people we knew. How could I get into the aviation industry? Like, how could I get experience and exposure to this? And I was able to get a connect with somebody at a nearby airport. And so then for the month of January in my junior year, I spent every day going to the airport. And that is really like what made me fall in love with aerospace and kind of decide that's what I want to do. And then after that, I kind of like really built my entire like college application and life around that like one experience because it was just so positive for me. So then when I got back to school, I also like, I think it's really important to like continue what you're passionate in. So I made a class. I created like my own personal class, like just me. I taught myself the content for the exam you need to take to become a pilot. And so that like I really incorporated into my application, into my essay. And so that's kind of how I decided like where I wanted to go in terms of my passion.
Mr. Marlon Pugh has a question. Madison and Morgan, when navigating the process, what, if anything, caught you by surprise?
I can go. This is one surprise I had. This is kind of after I applied. I applied early action, I think it's called, to Princeton, and I got in. And when I did, I hadn't really, like I was waiting to see if I got in or not to really start my other applications, which was not a good idea. Absolutely do not do that. And so I got in, and when I got in, I was like super excited. And then that's when I kind of started to do more research. And I realized like, I do not like this school. I don't want to go here. And obviously I changed my mind. But like initially I was like, I didn't want to go there. And so then I had 2 weeks to submit all my other applications. Of course, thoroughly research your schools, but like submit all your applications ahead of time, because after you get in, you're going to get lazy and you're going to be like, I already got into this school. Like I don't have to try as hard with these other schools. And don't do that, because you might decide like, don't like it and you might change your mind. So definitely get all your applications in as early as possible.
And did you do early action? Did you do early decision?
It was like restrictive early action, so I could only apply to one private school, and I did Princeton, and then I did most of my public schools early as well. Then the other private schools that I wanted to apply to later, which was I think Cornell and Stanford, I had to like really rush on those applications. So that was like something that I wish I had done earlier.
So could you explain really quick what early restriction is so they understand what that is?
Oh yeah, so restrictive early action is I think something only private schools do, I think, where you can only apply early to one private school, but then you can apply early to as many public schools as you want. I chose to do my private school as Princeton, and then I had to apply to the Cornell and Stanford after for regular decision.
And only early decision is binding.
Which is really a great strategy. I think you get a different look as a candidate when you apply early action. So I think it's a good strategy to apply early action. And if you absolutely know where you want to be, early decision is another good strategy.
Harris, this is where you're going to do your research on, so you are understanding the distinction between these application options that were not available to us. I don't believe. I don't remember any of this when we applied. So when we say that the application landscape for college has changed, this is what we're referring to.